Hey guys, welcome back to It's Like This podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eugene Kim, and I'm really having fun, listening to and editing the episodes with my husband, Nate, and he's also a psychiatrist. If it's not evident to you already, Nathan and I are very different, and it was really painful process, and it still is to be one as a team, when we're parenting our kids. In this episode, we're going to be sharing what was so difficult because we were so different, and what was helpful because we were different. And also at the end of the episode, Nathan and I share, what was that kind of glue that kept it together for us, maybe a lesson or realization that really helped us to push through in the process of becoming one in marriage, and also resulting in one team parenting. So I hope that you stay until the end. I'm going to give a quick review shout out to ehagen50. And it says, I love the clear explanations and practical tips that Dr. Kim offers. There's such a need for resources like this to address mental health and people in all ages. Thank you, ehagen50. And yeah, I think, one of the realizations and passion of mine was as a psychiatrist is that I don't want to further confuse people. I want to make mental health and spirituality and parenting more clear. So being practical, being clear and helpful is just, my sense of purpose professionally and clinically. So thank you so much for that review. And if this podcast episodes have been helping you, please visit one of the podcast platforms that you like to listen to and leave a review. This will extend my audience so that I can further help people to bring some clarity and wisdom into their lives. So without further ado, let's start the episode. So in the last episode, we talked about, our own parenting expectations, reality of parenting, when we first got our new set of newborns. And
our set?
No, not a set. What? Our first and second one, okay? And
I was like, what happened?
And then the reality of parenting, as they get older. And I think you kind of heard it from last episode, like Nathan and I are very different. Would you say that?
Absolutely. We're very complementarian.
Yes. So I wanted to kind of dedicate this episode kind of talking about how different we are, right? I think parenting together has its own challenges, right? Because we're very different people.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm very goal oriented. Right?
Yes.
I'm very vision oriented.
Yes.
I like to know, I don't care if it's not going to end up there, but I want to know, I want to have a direction, right? Mm-hmm. And I want to measure my progress,
mm-hmm.
I'm
very like, I think what I would say is I'm very, I can be present, right? I can enjoy the present moment or conversation. Mm-hmm. I can be present to, I think, engage, right? And be with someone, right? Connect with someone.
I mean, I think it's like a both strength and weakness, but I think you could be so satisfied with the present that you don't look forward.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
And I think I could be so focused on being forward that I don't focus on the present.
I think that it's like when you and me meet in the middle, right? I think that's the perfect combo.
Basically,
right? I think
Nathan keeps our kids' childhood fun, and I keep it safe and alive.
Oh, we do fun things is safe.
No. What I'm saying is like your forte is like keeping their childhood fun, like in the moment, and I keep them alive.
Sure. Yeah, that's true.
In what ways was working with me to parent our kids together, was it difficult?
I think there's a fine line where it's like, because your natural strength is planning and logistics and forward thinking, right? In some ways, it makes it very easy for me to be present, right? Because
I'm worried about
because things are kind of like stable, right? Where it's like, okay, well let's do this, right? Or let's do this activity, or let's play this, or let's talk about this. So I think you for sure provided a kind of a stable, controlled kind of environment and household where it could provide that kind of freedom, right, and availability to kind of be present, right, and to do things, right. Well, sorry, what was the other thing?
I was gonna say what is difficult about working with me? Are you sandwiching?
What?
Was that praise and something?
No,
criticism.
No, I forgot.
This is also very telling of like what our relationship is like. Nathan is so hyper focused on being present that he forgets what the question was. So what's difficult? What's difficult?
Difficult. So many things.
Yeah,
right?
So many things. Tell me about it.
I think
dish it out.
I think that because you can be very forward thinking and planning. I think there's a fine line there, right? But I think it can be like life can feel very sometimes, right? Again, a fine line, but I think it can feel very kind of rushed, right? And let's do 100 things in a time frame that only like 5 things can realistically be done, right?
I'm just staring at him right now.
I'm like,
you're like, no.
We should end this episode. I know. And so I think that there's almost like I want to say it's an impatience, but there's a busyness. If it's not in an appropriate margin, it can become too much, right?
I would agree with that. But weirdly, you have the same problem.
Oh yeah.
Because you're so hyper focused on what you think needs to be done, like that one thing, like AKA car wash, like all the time, that you're trying to squeeze in a car wash in like a busy day, and like that drives me crazy. So it's like,
but it's really fast, so
it never ends up being fast, and it's like, oh, like we can. So like
That's
you
true.
feel like you say
That's
that
true.
I make it feel like 100 things. It's like you makes it feel like not rushed, but wrong.
Wait, what? What's wrong? What's wrong with the car wash?
Car wash in the context of
on the way on the way to an appointment that we're late for?
Yes.
Oh,
like
that kind of wrong.
That's wrong. Like I just feel so wrong.
But it's on the way. That's on the way, you know.
Like parenting is important, right? We both care about parenting our kids. We both want our kids to be healthy and be loved and stuff. And because the stake is high and we're so different, I think it can be really difficult to work with that person with the same goal. And a lot of times, especially in the beginning, you and I disagreed on how to discipline or like what to focus on. Like you hyper focus on like cleaning their teeth. You're like obsessed with dental hygiene. And like I'm not, you know, so then we'll get in fights. Like kids were already sleeping in the car, and you were like, we need to wake them up and we need to brush your teeth.
There were things that you maybe felt were important, or I felt were important, when I think at the end of the day, maybe it wasn't that important.
Right. It's important, but it's not that important.
Right.
Yeah. Right. What would you say that like I thought it was so important, you're like, dude, like you need to just chill out?
So sleep is very important for kids.
Oh yeah, sleep.
Right? We agree on that. In general, sleep is very important for kids. Yeah. Kids need sleep, right? If they don't get sleep, they turn into monsters, right?
Freak out when they don't get sleep.
But there's I think there's a certain level of if it doesn't meet this kind of goal or criteria, that you have this almost like catastrophization anxiety that is almost, I think, sometimes, right, can be out of proportion of like what could really happen or how bad it's going to be, right? And I
think it's the sleep training books that I read when they were younger. It's like sleep begets sleep. So if they're like tired, then you'll never get it back. You'll never get your kid back. Kind of fear. I do hyper focus on sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that, you know, like, so I guess, okay. So I guess kind of to the point is like, well, maybe my tendency is like, hey, things are going to be okay. Like, it's fine, right? Like, don't worry. Like, it's going to be okay. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, they're smiling and alive right now, so they'll be smiling and alive forever.
If it doesn't work out, you know, we'll figure it out. You know, things couldn't be that bad if it doesn't work out. But for you, I think it's like, hey, things are like always going to be a dumpster fire. So we got to make sure, like, you know.
I don't think everything's going to be a dumpster fire, but I feel like my tendency is like, there always could be an improvement.
Sure.
I think that's how I see it. And you're like, right now is the best scenario.
Yes, kind of. But I think also too, I think part of it is because of just, you know, your upbringing and stuff, right? But I think that, you know, if this thing, or I think if this thing isn't done, or if this thing isn't resolved, right, or figured out, then it's gonna just blow up into this really big issue,
because it did blow up.
Right. And so I think that translated to things like sleep, where it's like, hey, if they don't sleep by like 7:30, and they sleep at like 7:35, then like it's Armageddon.
You're making me sound like
it wasn't that bad, but like, it's like it's going to be terrible, right? And so
I think though that so I think working together, because we're so different and we have our own triggers, like it's so difficult, but there has been benefits of working together.
Yes.
And one scenario that I thought of was when both kids went through their sleep regression when they're 3 and 4, like especially the first one. I would like lose my mind.
You mean they're still going through it?
I think they're always going through it. But I would lose my mind. I think because I'm very sensitive to sleep. Like I need my sleep or I turn into a monster. That's number one. And number two is if I don't have a sense of direction and progress, like I'm doing this sleep training techniques and it's like backfiring on me and like I don't know if it's working or not, then I start to get really angry, frustrated at the situation and maybe myself. And sometimes like it's not easy for me to snap out of that frustration, but that's when I benefited from your patience and perspective on that, because you're like, let me just take care of it, or like I'll deal with it, so I think it's really good to have another adult with their strength to kind of come in when
another perspective.
I was struggling.
Yeah. And I think for me, like kind of the opposite side, it's like I can be like, hey, like we can do this, right? Or like this is okay, like don't worry, but I think your strength and how I've benefited a lot too, right? And it's helped me is you can be like, hey, like let's kind of step back for a moment and let's think like tomorrow or like 6 months from now or a year from now, like how is this gonna play out, right? Or what do we this may seem okay now, but actually in the future we need to change something now so that it doesn't turn into this. So I think you helping me kind of appreciate also kind of long-term implications, or just kind of thinking more long-term was was also helpful for me. Even the Bible is right. So, count your days and, just having appreciation for the time that you have, right? And sense of urgency and, just maximizing, right? Just your life and, all that good stuff. But I think it was just really good to be like, hey, what do we need to do now?
Yeah.
In terms of planting seeds and stepping stones, so that when those milestones or events or situations do come up, we've had that foundation, we have that groundwork to support him, but also connect with him, right? And have that relationship established.
Yeah. And just to kind of recap, like we've been married for 9 to 10 years, right? We're starting our 10th year.
Yeah.
And you and I obviously came from very different family culture and what was normal, what was expected, right? What was not expected or whatnot. And then as we're coming together, marriage is helping us become one. I think parenting is one of those life events that could potentially bring us closer, to be very similar to each other, and it's not easy to be in a position of like always appreciating differences, and like learning from each other. But I think, we're definitely not a perfect couple. We had our ups and downs.
You're perfect, right?
Oh, Nathan,
you are.
You're really milking this
so perfect
public.
But I think that. Like,
we had our near calls too. You know what I mean? Like,
we had
to be realistic, like to the audience to know, like we had our near misses.
Kind of when you were saying that, made me think about just the importance of just thankfulness and gratefulness, right, for each other, and recognizing how even though things aren't quote unquote perfect, right, there is so much to be thankful and grateful for, right? How just for each other and just how we've in those kind of situations of argument or just really butting heads or just relationship strain, right? We just being thankful and grateful that at the end of it, that commitment was there, right? And we committed to work through it. And so I think just thankfulness and gratefulness is a really key piece that is not easy to have and to cultivate and to maintain, but when we are kind of on that and staying on top of that, and we are kind of praising each other, right, and being appreciative of each other, and internally
taking the compliments,
internally and externally, I think that's when we really are really good for each other, and that in turn makes us good for the kids too.
Yeah. I think for me, what I realized, balancing the difficulty and benefits of parenting together as a married couple, I learned that my emotional reaction to some of the things that you did, or triggers me certain ways. And I think maybe by the year 7, 8, I realized my reaction is like 60% because of what happened to me in the past.
Sure.
And 40% because of what Nathan did in our duration of our marriage. So it's like, I needed to separate that, and there's a doubt a lot of times of like, oh, he's intending to hurt me, or he doesn't love me, or he is not all in, or something. There's a doubt, but you kind of had to, and I'm not saying this is like a generally applied, there's definitely an abusive relationship. I'm not like saying that this applies there too, but I had to separate my emotional reaction and not attribute it all to your fault, but give you the responsibility that's yours, and also not, right? I had to do that, and I had to trust your intentions. Like, yes, he did say those things that triggered you and made you emotionally reactive, but I trust that his intention is not to harm you. And it was maybe misdirected, maybe it's a bad habit, or something, but I had to trust the intention. Because my tendency was out of my insecurity, like run, like this is a red flag, like run.
And I think for me, kind of the thing over the years, learning more and continuing to learn too, is kind of being more free, like not afraid of kind of failure or inadequacy or being or competency, right? But just kind of being free to say, hey, like it is a good and healthy and kind of just what we were created for, right? Is to have ownership and responsibility and influence and kind of just control, right, of our life and our the people we come in contact with. And I think that over the years, and what I'm still learning, is that what is my identity and purpose. And I think personally what I found is there is a unique kind of role of being a man, being a husband, being a father. As I walk that out, how responsibility, kind of like shepherding, right, taking care of, and providing and protecting, kind of these kind of oversight kind of roles, right? These shepherding roles, how it's kind of who I think I'm supposed to be, right? And how I was made, right? And so I think there's a lot of kind of purpose and meaning in walking those things out and growing in those things.
I hope you guys enjoyed the episode as much as Nathan and I did. I hope that it was interesting to you listening to psychiatrists analyzing each other and themselves for a few minutes. We just have a long way to go as an individual, as spouse and parents, but I'm just glad that you guys took the time to listen to us kind of share our journey. If you enjoyed the episode and if you want more content, you can definitely scroll down. I explain depression, anxiety in a way that I think is clear and understandable to other people. And more importantly, subscribe so that you can see the next episode when it comes. And also share with people that you think will benefit from these episodes. So have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.